Hoki mai and welcome back to Breakfast. It is 13 to 8. Parents of teenagers will know all too well the familiar anxiety that comes with letting your child start driving. In fact, 37% of parents say using a mobile phone while driving is their biggest concern when their teen is behind the wheel. But a new nationwide tour hopes to address that. Motorsport legend Greg Murphy and neuroscience educator Nathan Wallace are hosting the EYESUPNZ roadshow. And before I chat with Nathan about how the teenage brain works or doesn't work when driving, Greg gave me 3 of his top tips on car safety, starting with technology and safety systems in your vehicle.
There's plenty of technology in cars these days. Modern cars have got so much stuff built into them, and really it's been put in by manufacturers because humans aren't paying enough attention and doing a good enough job behind the wheels to cater for our inadequacies and our lack of attention. But you can't trust it to do what you think it's going to do. So you need to know exactly what the technology is, what it's designed to do, and you should be paying attention all the time and not relying on that stuff.
So let's not rely on technology. It's there to assist, but don't rely on it.
Don't rely on it, don't drive to it.
Next thing, tyres.
Yeah, I can't emphasise enough how important the tyres are. And people hate having to pay for them, but the difference is enormous. It's really critical. That's why Warrant of Fitness is there, to have your tyres checked and give you advice. When you get advice that you should get new tyres, go and do it. Today is a perfect day to do some testing as to why a good tyre is so important, because ABS is something that works in unison with good tyres.
So ABS, we need to check this out, and you need to walk us through it, talk us through it. All right, here we go. ABS. What is ABS?
Anti-lock braking system. It gives you the ability to stand on that brake pedal as hard as you possibly can, right? Don't worry about how much brake pressure. And the wheels will not lock up. And that allows you to also turn the steering wheel while your foot's hard on the brakes and be able to change direction. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Here we do that, 50, and then jump on the brake, and then I can turn and avoid. So I just stayed hard on the brake. You can hear the vibration, you can hear the tyres or the hazards have gone off, everything, the car's realised what it's doing, but I still had control. Right, your turn. Stop. Turn left, right. Oh yeah, well it doesn't matter. Yeah, but you didn't stay on the brake, so you actually got off the brake. We know from masses of controlled environment driver training that the first time people do it for the first time, every single time they back off the brake pedal.
Yeah.
And don't maximise it. Off you go. Drive straight back down there again. Jump on it hard. Turn, and then that way. On it hard. Yeah, so you got off it again. Yeah.
What happened then?
That was much better. Your initial, application to the brake pedal was really good, but then again, you started to release the brake quite quickly. And so therefore we travelled a lot further than we would have.
What this has actually made me realise is that there's so much more for me to continue to keep learning.
Exactly. We get our licences 16, 17, and then for most people that's the last time they actually have to do anything when it comes to any kind of driver training. And this is another big problem. People have got terrible habits. The technology has changed. Things like ABS have come in. Waka Katahi, the police, everyone, they tell us to, drive safely. Well, what does that mean? Well, safely is actually having a full understanding of your vehicle, the tools that you've got, being aware, obviously, not being distracted. We should be having to do competency tests, not pass and fail necessarily, but do actually upgrades, getting the software upgraded upstairs. We do that for everything else, but we're not doing it when it comes to driving.
Yes, indeed. So for more tips and tricks on young driver safety, neuroscience educator Nathan Wallace joins us now. Morena, Nathan.
Morena.
I mean, you two together are incredible. It's a brilliant team.
It's been fun.
Yeah, I bet it has been fun. Talk to me about the teenage brain, how it works and doesn't work when driving.
Yeah, well, I mean, you need essentially 2 parts of your brain when you're driving. That's your frontal cortex, basically the part of your brain that you've got the dog hasn't got. Obviously, a dog can't drive, so you need that higher part. But you've also got what we call brain number 2, the motor skill brain. So the motor skill brain does the automatic changing of the gears and stuff, but their frontal cortex is what notices, a bike is in front of you. It looks for anything that's novel. So you need both of those. That frontal cortex is largely shut for renovations as a teenager. So they're already on the back foot when it comes to driving. Then on top of that, we have a licensing thing about not, having other teenagers in the car.
Yes.
Because the way the teenage brain responds, basically, teenage brain trumps adult brain during adolescence. So if you're, say, with your teenager doing a driving lesson, you're engaging their frontal cortex. That's say, as soon as another teenager gets in the car, any other teenager, it's a biological principle that your teenager you're teaching to drive downshifts to their limbic emotional brain, which makes them less safe.
Yeah.
Hence why we have that rule that they're not allowed to drive with other people. It has real science behind it. Your teenager is in a much more dangerous space when another teenager's in the car.
Now, how do you have those conversations with your teenager, though? Because once they leave, leave the house, you're constantly worried about, oh, God, they're going to pick up a mate, what's going to go
Which is why most of it, a lot of it is role modelling, making sure that you get in the phone. I mean, it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
I thought when I started this campaign, better make sure I'm not texting on my phone. That'd be a bad look to be on a nationwide campaign and then pick up your phone. And I thought it'd be easy because I'm not a native digital anyway. I wouldn't try and text and drive. Young people do because they think they can do it and they've been allowed to get away with it. I'm not that native to stuff, but I was surprised how much I picked up the phone to see who it was.
Yeah.
And just trying to break that habit. I have to actually put my phone onto silent, put it over the other side of the car. But it's modelling. If the kids see you doing that every time you get in the car, there's way less chance they're going to do it.
So we know that mobile phones are a distraction, but what other distractions are there that we need to be aware of for our teens?
Anything that distracts you, really. Them changing the radio station. Have they sorted their playlist out, beforehand? The ones we worry about the most are other teenagers in the car, and cell phones, obviously. But even things outside the car can be distracting. I've taken teenagers for lessons where they're more concerned about which of their friends. I just took one of my kids out into the country because I couldn't teach them to drive because they were so concerned about which of their friends were going to see them. They needed their sunglasses down and their arm out the window and stuff. It's like, no, that's not how you drive. Let's just get right at it. And so that they don't even... Because that's what the teenage brain's focused on, what other teenagers think.
Yeah. AutoSense did a survey on parents, and so at the beginning of this segment, I said 37% of parents say that using a mobile phone while driving causes them the biggest anxiety with their young drivers behind the wheel, followed by poor decision-making due to peer pressure. What happens, and I have about maybe less than a minute, but what happens when our kids get in the car and there's that peer pressure?
Yeah, they basically get a big hit of dopamine to please their peers. When they've been children, they basically get a dopamine hit, that reward system, to please their parents. But biologically, that shifts to your peers during adolescence. So it's very, very hard for a kid to say no when they're, if all the other, there's a couple of teens in the car going, floor it.
Yeah.
Their brain's pumped to really do what they say and give them a big reward for doing that. I gave my kids a safe word that if they were in that situation, they didn't want to look like a nerd. And I said, then text me, or I think we used the word relay. If the word relay come across in their text or on the phone, that was a message to say, help me, rescue me, get me out of the situation.
Look, if you want more tips, and I'm really sorry that this is such a short conversation, but if you want more tips, EYESUPNZ, and there's these amazing tips here from both Murph and from Nathan on how to keep our kids safe while driving. Thank you so much.
Sure, Jenny.
Go well, because I know that the tour that you and Greg are doing is still going, so EYESUPNZ, check it out.
Wonderful. Held up.
If I